It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Okay, so we said that if we're protecting our wealth, obviously we want to create and stress test a really good retirement plan. We want to make sure we don't fall prey to lifestyle creep. We want to make sure we don't allow our debt to let us fall prey to that lifestyle creep. And the fourth thing is we ought to teach our kids about smart financial principles.
Yeah, I mean, we heard the first intro section. I said, look, 80% of wealth is first generation. But the sad part of that statistic is by second generation, 70% of the wealth is gone. By third generation, the grandkids, 90% of the families lose it all. So that's a scary, scary thing. I tell you, a good way to get to a solution on that, let's go ahead and start teaching some valuable skills to our younger generation. You know, be very forthright with what the value of a dollar is, the importance of saving and investing, paying yourself first, being generous. All these things can really build a lot of skill sets.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we really can think about is starting early is not bad. You know, I have my oldest daughter's 5 years old. She lost her third tooth today, Brian. And I don't know who set this up, but I think when she lost her first tooth, she got $1 from the tooth fairy. When she lost her second tooth, she got $2. Well, I don't know who told her this is the way that it works, but she said, Daddy, 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 guess what? And I said, what, baby? She goes, I bet I'm going to get $3. And I said, well, $3,
man. By the time this child gets to her last teeth, we got an exponential growth thing here.
Speaking of cash out refi, but here's what I think is interesting. I'm hoping that what she's thinking is she's thinking, you know what? It's time for me to have my next daddy-daughter date where we're going to talk about what to do with the money. And if I can instill those principles in her early on, it's going to save not only my wealth later in life, it's going to set her up to build her own wealth later in life as well. But that's not just us that have come up with that. We've actually seen this in other resources that we respect out there.
Well, and I'm hopeful because one of the things, and I've talked about this on quite a few shows, I have a dollar-for-dollar match system where I've tried to, we've done custodial accounts for the girls. I've got a custodial Roth account for my daughter's wages and earnings that she's had. And we try to really encourage her to save for the future. And the big part of this is I want her to learn independence. I want her to learn to stand on her own, to understand the power of saving, of giving, all good money management skills. Because, look, I think that if you ask what wealthy families worry about, because they know this churning of wealth creation occurs, a lot of them are worried about screwing the kids up. Right. And to the point that, and look, some of this is, and I've seen it with when I was growing up, a number of my friends did get gifts as they became adults. They got gifts annually from their parents, well-intentioned, but if they're not structured right, you might actually be creating dependency on the money from the parents, or you could be in a worse situation. What if your adult children don't become self-sustaining? They could drain you dry with all their lifestyle needs themselves. And this is talked about in The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah, in Dr. Stanley's book, he says more than 46% of the affluent in America give at least $15,000 worth of economic outpatient care, that's giving money to kids, to their adult children and or grandchildren. And I find that alarming. Now, it's one thing if that's part of like an estate plan. It's one thing if that's part of like some strategy there. But I'm like you, Brian. I had a couple of friends who I grew up with that were getting those gifts, that they were receiving that money that was coming in. This is a bad, they didn't have the same kind of drive that I had. They didn't have the same kind of desire to go out there and make wise financial decisions and stand on their own. And I wonder if part of it is because they knew they always had the safety net in the background.
Well, that's just something. We know the first generation didn't get these gifts.
That's right.
So if they didn't give that, but then the second and third generation are getting these gifts, instead of them building a budget without the $15,000, they're building a budget with the $15,000. And what that's doing is encouraging excess consumption. It's encouraging, hey, why do I have to worry about being a saver when I can just be a spender? I don't need to save. I got this legacy money coming my way. The mentality kind of gets distorted, and that's how you get into these type of situations. So just be careful. Look, there's nothing wrong with having success. There's nothing wrong with paying it forward. I'm just saying try to do it in a positive way so that hopefully your children are using it as a building situation, not as a subsidy situation, and then you're part of that 70 and 90% wealth cleansing process that occurs in the statistics.